Ch. Welcome to class, chapter 12. This is the end of unit, I think it's unit 4, if we're counting the stuff about where we learned the alphabet. I want to advise you, when you're learning a language, here's my advice. Review a lot and always review backwards. Always review backwards. And what I mean by that is, if you're learning, let's say, the alphabet, and you started with alap, and then you go to bith, and then whatever. You've learned alap. It was the first thing you learned. Let's say you're towards the end of the alphabet, and you get to tau, and you're like, you know what, let me review the whole alphabet. If you start at the beginning, and you start reviewing with alap, you're just going to learn alap, bith, and gamal really well, and you're never going to learn the last letters that well. So when you're reviewing, start with tau and go backwards. Start with the newest thing you learned, the last thing you learned, and then review the previous chapter and then the previous chapter. Why? Because if you just, so let's say you day 1 you learned chapter 1, day 2, and let's say you review forwards, you're going to do chapters 1 and 2. Day 3, 1, 2, and 3. What's going to happen? You're going to learn this first thing a million times. The last things you're not going to do. But if you do it backwards, you learned lesson 1, then lesson 2, then lesson 3, and then you review all 3 of them. Then you do lesson 4, and then you review all of them. Lesson 5, and then by the time you get to lesson 6, you're just going to have to review these last few, because these early ones, you know what I mean? Does this make sense mathematically? Okay. Always review backwards. The temptation is, I want to get warmed up, and I want to look at the stuff that I already know. And it's going to make me feel good. Yeah, it'll make you feel good, but you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to know 3 letters, and that's it for the rest of your life. So now that we're at the end of a unit, review chapter 12 after we're done today. Review the vocabulary that you just learned in chapter 12. Then go back to chapter 11. Review that vocabulary. Review the little bits of grammar that you did there. Go back to chapter 10. Review that after that. That make sense? The backwards thing? Okay, good. Chapter 12, the garden. Again, totally arbitrary. We're just picking topics where we can force vocabulary into conversation so that you can learn some new words. That's really what's going on here. The grammatical point that we're presenting in this chapter is, finally, we're going to talk about male, female, and plural nouns and adjectives. So we're going to have some actual grammar now. Not that we haven't before, but we're going to get some actual grammar on those parts of speech. So, Lishana, language. Chaldean nouns and adjectives look very similar. Nouns and adjectives look similar to each other, especially in their endings, which indicate if they are masculine or feminine, or singular or plural. So, masculine nouns and adjectives usually end in an a sound. Usually a masculine noun is going to end with a. And they have an alap at the end of the word. So basically every noun that you're going to run into is going to end with an alap. And masculine ones are going to end just with an alap. If you go a little bit further, feminine ones are very often going to end with a tau alap. Okay? So let's take a look at these examples. Go to the right, masculine nouns. All the way to the right. Everyone say arya. That's a lion. You see the a at the end and the alap at the end of arya. Go to the go under it. Go say kursiya. Chair. That's another masculine noun. It's not that there's anything male about chairs, but everything has to be masculine or feminine in Semitic languages. There's no neuter. There's no it. Okay. And what does that mean? It means later today we're going to learn some numbers. When you say one chair, the word one is going to be masculine or it's going to be feminine. There's no just the number one that's just neuter. In English, we have the word it. There is no such thing as it in Chaldean. It's he or she. Everything is he or she. Okay. So everyone say pera. It means fruit. So like a fruit off a tree. Go to the left. Let's look at some feminine nouns. Everyone say shata. So you know at the end of a feminine noun, at least these examples, you have not just an alap at the end, but you have a tau alap. So masculine nouns end in a. Feminine often end in a ta. Everyone say ta. Everyone say susta. A mare, so a girl horse, a female horse. Brata, A girl. In fact, let's do something. I'm sure I'm going to get to this in a second. But if you want to say a horse, a male horse, is there an English word for a male horse? We're not farm people. There probably is one, I just don't know it. Steed, yeah, see? One smart person in this room. Everyone's like, no, there isn't, and then she knew it. Anyway, so a steed is a male horse. That word is, everyone say, susya. And then the feminine, a feminine horse, a female horse is susta. It's exactly the same word, except there's a ta at the end to make it girl. A girl horse, okay? There is no neuter in Chaldean. That means there's no it. Grammatically speaking, everything is either he or she. It's just the way the language is built, and there's lots of languages like this. You can also recognize plural nouns from their ending. So now, the way to recognize a masculine noun most often, not always, but most often, is an a at the end. The way to recognize a feminine noun is a ta at the end. Most often. Not always, but often enough to make it worth saying. Plural nouns, you can recognize, most of the time masculine plurals only change the ending from an a vowel to an I vowel. So if you want to say lion, go to the right on that chart. Everyone say arya. If you want to say lions, you say arye. Everyone say arye. Lions. So the a at the end turns into an I. Not that hard. Pretty easy. It's like adding the S at the end. You're just changing the vowel. Instead of saying lion, lions, arya, arya. Slight change to the word. Now, look above the resh on arya. Everyone say arya. It's small, but you see on top of the resh, there's two dots. That's called siame. I've talked about it before. I'm going to remind you, those are not pronounced. When you have two heavy dots like that above a word, that just means that that word is plural. They don't sound like anything. Those are grammatical markers. Everyone say melka, king, melke, kings. Pera, fruit, pere, fruits. Pretty simple. Very, very few things in any language are this simple, including in Chaldean. Okay? Remember from earlier in the book that the two square dots above a word called siyame indicate that it is plural. Good, I already said that. Feminine plurals, you can do in a couple of different ways. So if it's a feminine noun and you want to talk about more than one of them, they often have the same ending as a masculine plurals, but there's also this special feminine plural form. So look at this word on the right. Everyone say susta. There's a special feminine ending, if you go to the left, susyatha. Everyone say susta, susyatha. Go down the line, sister. Everyone say chatha. Sisters, chathwatha. Sin, chtitha. Chtiyatha. So there's two ways to go about this. One, you can just absolutely lose your mind and freak out and try to learn rules about, wait, when do you have to add a yoth? Like susta, susyatha, it's a yoth. How do I know when to add a yoth? Chatha, chathwatha, it's a wow. How do I know when to add a wow? Chtitha, chtiyatha, it doesn't add anything, it just adds the vowel. How do I know when to do that? I have no idea. Learn the passive version first. Learn to recognize first. I probably could I could probably give you rules if I sat and thought about it for a long time. I repeat for the third or fourth time in the class, that is not how languages work. Languages work by people speaking them. Nobody sat down at the beginning of the Aramaic language and said, here are the rules for this language that I'm going to create. That is not how languages work. Don't learn languages that way. I strongly suggest not doing that. Recognize, well, how do I know when it's a feminine plural? If it's feminine, usually it's going to have a ta at the end, a ta. And then if it's plural, it's going to have some vowel before that. Atha or watha or yatha. Something like that's going to happen. Does that seem loose? It seems like it should be more strict. Okay, when you invent a language, you do it your way. That's not the way this language works. Okay? Adjectives work in the same way. There are masculine and feminine and singular and plural adjectives. And they generally use the exact same endings as nouns. So there's nothing new to memorize. You should be very thankful for that. Everyone say, so here's how you say large. Everyone say raba. That's the masculine singular for large. Everyone say rabtha. Feminine singular for large. We'll use it, we'll give an example in a second. Rabi, masculine plural. And then feminine plural adjectives are almost always going to be the same as masculine. Rabi. You'll if somebody's like reciting a poem and they want to sound real super fancy, they might say rabatha. Insha rabatha, great women. If you're writing a poem, if you want to sound super formal, yes, that's acceptable to do that. 99.9% of the time, you're going to say insha rabi. You're going to use the masculine version of the adjective, even if it's a feminine plural noun. That's just the way the speech usually works. Bottom paragraph. The way these adjectives are used. So now, that's just the form. Let's review the form for a second. For a masculine singular, it just ends ah. Everyone say ah. Feminine, tha. Or ta. When is it soft and when is it hard? When is it ta and when is it tha? Just learn the word. Just learn the word. And sometimes it's a ta and sometimes it's a tha. It's just the way it is. Okay. You know I'm okay saying that? Most of us know English pretty well, I think, in this room. How many of you had to learn English as a second language? I'm curious. How many of you had to learn English as a second language as an adult, like after high school? It's really hard, isn't it? So when people complain about, oh, Chaldean has so many exceptions to the rules, try learning English. I don't think there's ever been a language in the history of the world worse than English as far as rules go. But to us, it sounds logical. It makes sense because we grew up speaking it or learned it really young. So I don't want to hear any complaints about Chaldean. Now, the way these adjectives are used is that they follow the same gender and number as the noun they modify. So if you want to say large donkey, do not call anybody this. You have a masculine singular noun, donkey. And so you would use the masculine singular form of the adjective. Everyone say, not to your loved ones, just for the sake of learning in class, everyone say, khmara raba. Now, what's the first thing you notice here? In English, when you say a large donkey, you put large before donkey. The adjective comes first. In Chaldean, the adjective comes second. You will never in Chaldean say raba khmara. It never comes first. The adjective always comes second. So that's something you just have to learn. It's a new thing in the language. Practice makes perfect. Everyone again say khmara raba. If it's is there a girl, what's the word for a girl donkey? Donket? No, in English. In English.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody know? I wish I had a farmer that was in my class. I'm getting to that. I want to learn and I want to know what it is in English. There's probably some word for a female donkey in English, whatever. Everyone say khmarta rabtha. You guys are all giggling. You're so immature. Look what's happening. You added a tau to make it a female donkey, khmarta. So khmara became khmarta. And then rabba became rabtha. You see that? And then again, rabtha is second. If you want to say large donkeys, plural, everyone say khmare, rabe. You see that? So now the rabba becomes rabe. Same endings applied to both. And if you want to say large female donkeys, everyone say khmariyatha, rabe. That's usually what's going to happen. Rabe is going to be the same for masculine and feminine, plural. Again, if you happen to be writing a formal poem about large female donkeys, there's nothing incorrect about saying khmariyatha rabatha. But that's a weird poem to write. Okay? But technically speaking, it's grammatically fine. It's fine. Just people are going to kind of roll their eyes at you when you talk like that. Note that unlike in English, the adjective comes after the noun in the sentence. In dictionaries, adjectives are found in the masculine singular form, and it's up to you to adapt them to the feminine or plural forms. So even in the little dictionary that we have at the end of this book, I'm not going to tell you, let me find an adjective. I'm not going to tell you, actually, even at the end of the chapter. Where's my vocab? 47 at the bottom. Let's say bisha. Everyone see bisha? Bisha. Means evil. That's masculine singular. So let's practice. Let's say evil man. Everyone say gora bisha. So now the word for woman is, everyone say bakhta. Now how would you say an evil woman? Bakhta bishta. Everyone say bakhta bishta. Okay? Evil. So now I'm not going to tell you, and no dictionary in the world is going to tell you how to take bisha and turn it into bishta. You have to know that. Dictionaries assume, all dictionaries in all Semitic languages will assume that you know the grammar before you open the first page of that dictionary. This is the same for Hebrew, every dialect of Aramaic, Akkadian. I assume Arabic, I don't know Arabic, but I'm assuming the same thing happens there. That when you look up a word in a dictionary in any Semitic language, they're going to give you the masculine singular form of the adjective or the noun, and they're going to assume that you know how to turn it into whatever you want to turn it into. And vice versa, if you are reading and you see the word bishta, and you don't know what it means, the dictionary is going to assume that you know to look up bisha. And that's where you're going to find it. So grammar and vocab in Semitic languages go together. You can't just, and which is why this kind of causes a problem for, I don't want to say lazy people, but it causes a problem for some people that there's something that they want to translate and they think they can just look up every word in the dictionary. You can't, because every word's not in the dictionary. In fact, when we get to verbs, you can only look up the root. So you really have to know basically the entire grammar before you can look up a single word in the dictionary. It's hard. But that being said, the grammar of Semitic languages is usually fairly simple to learn. So there's a kind of give and take. All right. Let's. So how about evil? How about evil donkeys? Everyone say chmare bishe. Is it kind of clicking? How about another one? How about bricha? That's a nice adjective. Blessed. Everyone say, let me use something besides gora. What else can be bricha? Resha. What is it? Betha? No, resha. Resha? Yeah. A blessed head. Everyone say resha bricha. Resha bricha. And if you want to say blessed heads, reshe briche. Reshe briche. Yeah, that works. Everyone say zora. Why am I'm getting way ahead of myself. I should just read through the vocab. Anyway, any idea of, you guys all have an idea of what to do now? A for masculine singular, tha or ta for feminine, e for plural, for both nouns and adjectives. Now, let me see how I have a couple, let me see, just for a minute I want to talk about something. I think you can argue that adjectives and nouns are kind of the same thing sometimes. In English, we have a strong distinction between the two of them. But in Aramaic and in a lot of Semitic languages, it's kind of more fluid. Let's say you want to say the word holy man. You would say gora, everyone say gora, qaddisha. Let's say you want to say a holy woman. You would say bakhta qaddishta. Let's say you want to say holy men or holy people, nashe qaddisha. Now, let's say you're in a hurry and you don't have time to say both words. All you have to say is the word qaddisha, which means holy and is an adjective in English. If you just say the word qaddisha, that adjective taken by itself becomes a noun, and it becomes a holy person or a saint. So that the adjective qaddisha, just say it by itself and it becomes a noun. It becomes a holy man. And if you say qaddishta, by itself it means a holy woman. And if you say qaddisha, by itself it means holy people or saints. Isn't that interesting? So think about that. Just kind of break the kind of borders of grammar that you're used to, that this has to be this or this. It's a little bit more fluid in Semitic languages. And it'll kind of change the way you think about language as well, if you've even thought about this before. Okay, let's read through this dialogue, page 46. Good old Maryam and David. Adi ila bistana dbethan Dawid. Say it. Adi ila bistana dbethan Dawid. David says, Shapirta ila. Mila o ilana zora. Actually, it's au. Au ilana. Sorry. Au ilana de armone. Everyone say armone. Pomegranates, right? Ugebe Ethan. Chailana. Tchabushe Rabe. You know that. You know Rabe. Okay. You might not know Chabushi. You can look that up. Ukma ile en mishmishe tama. I like the word mishmish. It's fun to say. Qamid ani khazin khamsha u isri. You're gonna love that. Talk about that in a second. Uma'ith bo'o ilana rahuqa. إيث تاني كبيرة وخلية دخ كراوي أن إلانة كراوي من شولد إذا وحبد بيثا وخيلد أبرا وشمشة ومطرة من ألها. That's cute. All right. Vocab. Everyone say ilana. Tree. Opera. Dirt. Armona. Pomegranate. Benjana. Eggplant. Bashila. Melon. Gilla. Grass. Warda. Flower. Zibla. Manure or garbage. A lot of these you should not call people. Opera. You can call somebody warda, that's true. Khabusha. Apple. Tina. Mud. So opera is dry, tina is wet. Tamata. I'm sure that comes from some other root, whatever, tomato. Khiyarta. Cucumber. Khas. Lettuce. Mishmish. Is apricot. Inwa, or inwa, is a grape. Injasa, a plum. I never eat fruits, I never say these words. Portakal, orange. Patata, again I can probably guess that's some of the root, maybe Greek. Potato. Fasulya is a bean, and there's different kinds, right? White and green. And then qarnabit, another really funny word. I always found that word funny. Cauliflower. Qara'a, or just qara, squash, which also means skull, which is funny. Yeah. Shamziya, watermelon. Tana, fig. Tutha, mulberry. So I'm going to take a second here. Let's practice a little bit. Everyone say ilana. How would you say trees? Ilane. Yep. Everyone say armona. How would you say plural pomegranates? Armone. Good. So practice. Take some of the nouns in this chapter and make them plural. You can even try making them feminine if you want, just for fun. You can say bashila, bashilta. There, you'll hear some people say bashilta. That's perfectly fine. All right. Adjectives. Everyone say bisha. Evil. Bricha. Blessed. Zora. small. Zaddiqa, just or righteous. Hakima, wise. Khilya, sweet. Kpina, hungry, which I am always. Kriha, sick. Amuqa, deep. Sipya, pure. Qadisha, Raba, talked about those. Everyone say Tawa, good. Kabira, many. Rahuqa, far. Shapira, beautiful. Okay, let's go through these numbers. I have 2 minutes to do this. That should be plenty of time. Plenty of time. Numbers. Why am I putting the numbers in this chapter? Because numbers are adjectives. At least these numbers are. 1 apple. Make sense? It's an adjective. It's a word modifying the noun apple. Except, unlike other adjectives, they can come before or after the noun in the sentence. That's the only difference. Numbers, you don't have to say khabusha kha. You can. You can also say kha khabusha. You will never say smoka khabusha, red apple. You will always say khabusha smoka. But the number can go before or after. Yeah, that's an exception. All right, repeat after me. I'm just going to run through the numbers. Here are the masculine numbers, 1 through 10. Kha, tre, tlatha, arba, khamsha, ishta, sho'a, tmanya, tish'a, isra. Feminine numbers, just to annoy you. However, there are villages, a number of villages, that only use masculine numbers. And I kind of respect that. It's a nice simplification. So you'll hear people say kha bakhta, to say one woman, and that's perfectly fine. You'll hear villages in Zahu and that area use only masculine numbers and they just don't have feminine. I think that's fine. But for other villages, it's good to be aware. The way you say one feminine, repeat after me. Gha. 2 is titte. 3 is tallath. 4 is arbe. خمش إشت إشوى تمانة تشا السر. Then 11 and every number after is only one form for masculine or feminine. Repeat after me. خديسر تريسر. You see what's going on there? خد السر 1 and 10. Tresar, 2 and 10. Everyone say tiltasar. 3 and 10. Arbasar. Khamshasar. Ishtasar. Ishwasar. Tmanesar. This one, it's not tishasar. It's, for some reason, we say itchasar. I think it's just sort of a shortening of the word. And then go up to 20 is to the left. Everyone say isri. Tlathi. So look, tlatha, everyone say tlatha, 3, tlathi, 30. Arbi, khamshi, ishti, sho'i, tmane, tish'i. Amma. And then if you want to say 1,000, alpa. Okay? Good. And then if you want to have fun, page 51, speaking of ba'utha, this turned out great actually. Page 51 from the book of Jonah. Try to figure out as many words as you can in Chaldean. ومريم محضرة خانونا رابا وكمباليلة تيونن وهويلة يونن بكاسد نونا ثلاثة يوماثا وثلاثة ليلواثا ومن كاسد نونا مصوليلة يونن قم مريا ألها. Let me just read the whole thing right now. وبقتل مريا النونا وكمبالتلة تيونن ليوشا وهويلة تنيثد مريا قاد تتي تيونن بإمارة قو سي الننوم ذي تربثة ومكرز إلا كارز وثد أمرنخ وقم ليونن وزل الننوة مختنيثد مريا وننوة واوم ذيتا محق ربثة رخشتد ثلاثة يوماثا ومشوري ليونن بأوارا الننوة رخشتد خيومة ومكروز بمارة ما خل أربي يوماثا ننوة بقلبه وناشد ننوة مهي مني بألها. There you go.